Glue some gears on it and call it steampunk. That's the trendy fashion nowadays. A copper-painted chunk of some 1980s junk will fetch a pretty penny on eBay.
This show is all about our passion for creating, inspiring others, and figuring out creative ways for our passions to help other people. It's no longer a hobby, and it's more than a passion. It's a way of life. When we started just 8 years ago, it was all about having fun. Then, that fun grew into a bit of an obsession. We started building larger props, massive costumes, and even vehicles. We fell in love with steampunk and cosplay, and Hatton Cross Steampunk has become a worldwide presence. My name is Dave Lee, we are Hatton Cross Steampunk, and this is HCS Creates. Alright, so we are going to start working on our armor now. And the cool thing about EVA foam armor is that it's super lightweight, it's relatively inexpensive, and once you do a proper coating and treatment on it, which we'll get into later, you can get, it actually becomes fairly durable, and you can get a great paint coat on it. Before we start, there is 2 ways that you can adhere this, mostly. You've got hot glue and you've got contact cement. And so if I'm using contact cement, I like to use barge cement, but you have to keep in mind with that type of adhesive is that it's a lot of fumes and you need to be in a very well ventilated area because you don't want to be obviously getting dizzy and passing out or making yourself sick or worse. If you're going to use the hot glue method, then it doesn't make as good of a bond as the barge cement, but it's easier to work with, I think, and it can also get a lot of textures out of it too. But you got to keep in mind too, it gets really hot.
We've learned that lesson.
Hot glue is melted glue that gets on your fingertips. There's a tendency to want to go like this when you get too much glue, and that hurts. So please be careful. If you're working with kids or supervising kids, make sure that you're actually supervising them so they don't hurt themselves. For our purposes, we're going to use hot glue. And let's go ahead and get started. We do have quite a bit here to cut out.
So what you're saying is you have a lot cut out for us?
I do. Got a lot cut out for you.
Hold on a second. Are those my fabric scissors?
No. I don't think so.
They literally say, do not touch on the scissors.
Wait a minute, actually to be fair, you brought them. So, thank you for donating your fabric scissors to the project.
I'm just trying to point out you need good sharp scissors, but
yes.
Make sure you supervise your kids if they're doing this. Jessica could tell you some stories at, 4 years old? Jessica actually cut off a piece of her thumb with pin scissors.
I still have the scar.
Yes, you can do quite a bit of damage to yourself, and then there's not a whole lot of fun in that. We would have the option to use 3D modeling software, but we're going to stick from that, and we're going to stick with Winged Industries technology, which is winging it. And so no patterns, we're just going to make it fit our lovely model here, Aela, and she's about the right height for who I believe is going to be our werewolf model, and we'll go from there. So let's get started.
You know, I like things that are comfortable.
Right.
As much as they can get comfortable.
So what I've got here is a pretty good heat gun, And the heat gun is super, super valuable for doing EVA foam armor because it's going to let us heat it up enough to shape it. But also later on when we're done, we're going to go over the exposed surfaces, and it helps kind of melt a little bit of the foam so that you get a better sealed surface. And then there's a coating that goes over that and paint all this. But the heat gun is right now we're going to use, because if you don't use it, what you get is, you know, armor that won't hold its shape. You can also use multiple pieces like you would do with a shield to glue together, which make it hold its shape and make it a little bulkier, but we don't want to go too bulky on this. And when you're heating up a surface, you don't want to grab it.
Like you just did.
And that's why I did like this to kind of test how hot it is. And you also don't want to hold the heat gun on one spot for too long. You saw I was making a lot of movement on it because it will heat it up too much. And then there's a really fine point between it getting nice and hot, and then it gets too hot really quick. That last little bit, it goes really, really fast. And I've also found too, for some of the armor, if you have to make like a knee cap or part of a chest part that needs to have kind of a bowl shape, you can actually use salad bowls, heat a circle up, and then heat it up really good, and then press it in. You just want to make sure you have some good gloves to protect your hands from getting burnt. So. It's not hitting up against your neck. And
Never underestimate proper fitting, especially if you're at a con for like 8 hours and you're wearing this. It can get painful. Hi, my name is Aela Lee. I'm originally from Germany. I'm David Lee's wife. I do costuming, painting. I love taking things, reinventing them, upcycling, if you want to say. I love, love, love beadwork. That's kind of like the stuff I like to do. You know, something I can put on my body, I can use in belly dance performances, or I have a whole like mermaid. This is the mermaid crown, steampunk outfit. I just love playing with the fake hair, the beads, you know, and putting it all together and creating all of these characters. I love making jewelry, silk scarves, anything I can get my hands on. It's wonderful that it flows so well within all this steampunk stuff that David is doing.
a little crooked?
No.
We only accept perfection, Jessica! That's why we call it Winged Industries.
I feel like this became much smaller than what you originally created for me.
It's good. That's right.
So what's that for? Okay.
This is going to be part of what the cylinder attaches to. Right. All the rounded edges are to the left. If you want to, let's go ahead and glue this first.
Oh, okay. I see what you're doing.
So there's like an overlap. All right. So when you're doing an edge like this, you know, and basically this edge is going to seal and help hold this cylinder part of the backpack. We will help get its, you know, because it's going to end up gluing like this for now. We'll end up cutting a circle to help maintain the shape. But when you're putting it together, there's a tendency, especially if you're in the beginning, is to put too much hot glue So you want to get a nice thin layer and only do smaller sections, and then you're going to push it together and hold it. This is why the hot glue part is kind of a frustrating pain for a lot of people because they don't have the patience. But you're going to want to hold this until it actually cools down. So otherwise, because you want a nice tight seam, otherwise you end up doing like this and you'll see like all of the hair fuzz and you need to put more glue and you just never end up getting a good a seal on that line. This is the super exciting part of foam building. It's so exciting. Yeah. I'm like a broke doctor. A doctor with no money because I ain't got no patience. I'm just saying. Bad joke, bad dad joke, number 1 for this show. There will be lots of those. It is my superpower.
You can't turn it off. Does this look straight? I feel like it's not straight.
No, it's not.
I can't tell which end's worse.
So that, like, you can see the pace, the staggering, race car pace of this. And then you look at some of the big giant suits and you get a whole different appreciation for the amount of time somebody with no patience invested in this. So if you do this when it's hot, you're gonna regret it. But after a while, your fingers will get calloused enough and it won't be that bad. But actually, you know what? This is gonna be on the back, I think.
This is my top hat. Did you like my top hat?
I did. It was fantastic.
You're just gonna stick something random in there.
If you're adding back parts, so like this is in its spot, but I'm going to go ahead and add a bead of hot glue. When you paint this, it's going to look like a weld, or it can look like a weld, which is kind of cool if you're making this look like metal. Because right now, it looks like not a whole lot, perhaps, but
You can go in with silver and then do some extra detailing with black paint.
I do believe that we are going to go with the silver finish, much like that, the graphite color of. So this is the same thing, but once it has its coating and then it's been painted, you can see it. You can get a pretty good, pretty neat finish. I always go for, with the armor stuff, a rough finish. I don't paint everything perfect because I want it to get lots of different texture and contrast when people are looking at it. They see armor that looks shiny and perfect. It doesn't look like armor. It looks like display or something. So this has got battle damage. So this is going to have a similar kind of finish as this right here, which is a graphite color. So, and then these are always fun. If you're ever going to do rivets on this, one of the easiest ways to do it is to use googly eyes, the little eyeballs that you get, and when you move the armor, you can hear it. I think it's funny, but it's also super lightweight to make rivets. What do you think, Jess?
Yeah. Are you gonna put the clock there?
If we have a clock that fits her, that would be a darn good spot for it.
I like it.
Okay.
I think it's cool.
So really with this, what we have is down the center.
That would look cool if you had like one of the lights going through the crinoline because it's see-through. You have hot glue in your hair.
Do I?
Yes.
Where?
Oh, we're back here. Look.
Aw.
Already. Look like spider webs.
You see the little scissors?
Mm-hmm.
When we first got into it, my daughter was a 13-year-old, teenager who in the medieval reenactment world was being told you couldn't do this, you couldn't do that because she's a girl. And I could see the disdain and frustration. And so with Steampunk, she got the opportunity to not only not hear that, but to rebel against that notion even and be whatever the heck she wanted to be. And so the punk part of it is rebellion, but it's a bit of redemption, and it's a bit of pride and independence. Marscon, I think, started in 1990 or 1995. I'm not entirely sure. But in 2005 was our very, very, very first convention we ever went to. And I went to this in Marscon in Williamsburg and was just blown away. On one hand, I was a little overwhelmed with the amount of geekery going on with Star Wars, Star Trek, medieval, fairies, you name it, it's there. And I thought, this looks like a lot of fun. It's like a big Halloween party that lasts a whole weekend instead of one night. And so over the years, we got to know the people that run it, and just, I don't know, for us, it's kind of like, it's our home convention, and no matter what, I'm gonna do what I can to support it because they're just a great group of people and it's a fun convention.
I think that was one of our first steampunk conventions, and I remember just having like the very basic steampunk outfits because we didn't quite know what it was yet.
Well, and when you were 13 and you sold or had your first book published, Marscon was the first place we went to sell books.
Two more. So one more after that.
I always think that this sounds like a boat.
You better start believing in cyber werewolves. You're building one.
What are you working on now?
I'm going to cut a band about 1 inch to go around here. How is that possible? So all of these edges, as you're looking at it, look really rough, the circles and all of that stuff. But what we're going to do is we're going to go back after we've got it all built and fleshed out. We're going to take the Dremel to it and do a lot of the texturing and get the edges cleaned up. And then probably add a little bit of battle damage perhaps. Maybe some long scratch marks from the other werewolves that the good werewolf has been fighting. And then we'll have a really cool, smooth-looking backpack and armor. And so then what we're going to do after that is it gets the texturing, which is a spray-on plastic coat, usually for coating car rims. And that'll be once that's the coat. About 4 or 5 coats of that is what really seals it and makes it durable, and then allows you to really get a good paint job on it, because foam does not paint for squat. It's too porous, it's too soft, and but when you have the plastic coat on it, then it's magic. Okay. So hold it with your hand right here, because it does support the weight. So I think with all of the hoses that we're going to put, which we clean up, we're going to add some more texture. We're going to add some stuff here. We'll have all of the hoses coming from probably here down, multiple layers, lots of hoses, and then we'll have some of the lights with the crinoline wrap around them, and then you'll have your power source for your werewolf combat armor. So.
Just glue some gears on it and call it steampunk. That's the trendy fashion nowadays. A copper-painted chunk of some 1980s junk will fetch a pretty penny on eBay.